We have muted everyone's microphones except our speakers. I will remind our speakers that when you are not talking, if you could keep your phone on mute. And for the rest of you, because we have everyone's phones muted, you are able to ask questions in the chat pod. If you are listening on your phone, we would ask you to go ahead and mute your computer. If you have both phone lines open, it will give you some feedback. In order to maximize the presentation size, you'll notice in the top right-hand corner there are 4 arrows that point outward. If you click on that, it will give you a full screen of just the presentation instead of seeing all of the rest of the information. That may be most useful to you when we do a live demonstration of the website and toolkit later. At the end of each section, and there will be 2 sections today, we will have time for question and answer. As I mentioned, your phone lines are muted, so those questions should come in through the chat pod. And you're allowed to put those in at any time. So if one of the speakers mentions something and you'd like to ask a question about it, go ahead and put that into the chat pod. And we'll go back during the question and answer through the chat pod and make sure that we do ask our presenters all of those questions. In the bottom left hand, you will find a handout pod, and there are 3 flyers that Yanira will be talking about later, as well as the PDF of today's presentation. And as always, for those of you who join us for the Safety Center webinars, we do have 2 surveys that will come out following today's webinar. The first survey will be today, and we'll talk about the presenters and the content for today and ask more general information, and we'll also allow you to opt in, as I mentioned before, for the certificates of completion and for applying for CEUs. The survey that will come out in about 3 months is an additional survey that will ask you what you've done with the information from today's webinar, whether or not you've followed through and gone to the toolkit after today, if you've passed the information along to someone else. Perhaps you've used some of the pieces in the toolkit to deploy something in your area. So that's what we're looking for with that second survey that will come out in a few months. And we're very happy at the Safety Center to have 2 presenters today. We thank them very much for coming and spending time with us and presenting this information. Our first speaker will be Yanira Rivera. She's a Pathways Civil Engineering intern with FHWA's Office of Safety. She provides support in managing the RSDP Toolbox. As part of the Office of Safety Data and Analysis Tools team, she has developed resources documenting SPF development and calibration efforts for the CMS Clearinghouse. And she assists in projects to help state and local agencies with data collection, integration, management, and governance for safety analysis and data requirements. We also have Frank Gross, a highway safety engineer and researcher from Vanasshang and Breslin. As a safety researcher, he specializes in crash data analysis, evaluation of safety strategies, and development of tools and guidance to support federal, state, local, and tribal agencies. In his other role as a highway safety engineer, Frank helps state and local agencies with the implementation of Highway Safety Manual and related guides to diagnose safety issues, develop targeted countermeasures, and conduct benefit cost analysis, and estimate the safety effectiveness of implemented projects. So again, thank you both for being here today. We do truly appreciate it. So we do have a goal for this webinar. Once you've completed today's webinar, we hope that you'll be able to query the FHWA Roadway Safety Data Program Toolbox to help you find the right tool for the job. And in order to accomplish this goal, we have 4 learning outcomes. The first will be talked about by Yanira, and the other 3 will be gone over by Frank. So those are to define the basic safety terminology, the Roadway Data Safety Program, and the RSDP Toolbox. The second is to use the toolbox to search for available safety data and analysis tools. The third is to apply advanced search options to narrow the list of tools to support a specific need. And the fourth is to identify appropriate tools based on current safety data and analysis needs and capabilities. So before I do turn this over, I do want to bring up one more time that in the second section when Frank is talking, there will be a point in time where we do move over to a live demo. As always with technology, there's a chance that it may not work, and in which case we do have backup slides. But regardless of whether or not you're following along with the live demo or if we have to go to the backup slides, the PDF version of the slides in the handouts does include the screen captures, just so that you have that information as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Yanira. Yanira?
Hi, thank you, Jamie, and hello and good morning to everyone. Like Jamie said, my name is Yanira Rivera, and I am from the Federal Highway Administration's Office of Safety, and I am very excited to have this opportunity to present in this webinar. In this webinar, we will begin with some safety basics, and then we will provide an introduction to the mission, vision, and goals. And next we will go over how to find the toolbox and the methods available to search for tools. After which Frank will take the wheel and provide examples on how to obtain tools for varying tasks and responsibilities such as safety managers, data analysts, and data collectors. And then we will conclude with a moment for questions and answers. So first, let's go over some basic safety terminology. And for those already familiar with these terms, consider this a recap. So safety performance. Safety performance is defined as the number of crashes that are expected to occur in an intersection, road segment, project, site, or network in a given amount of time. These crash frequencies are typically provided by its totality and by crash severity. So what is crash severity? Crash severity describes the level of injury that was the result of a crash. A common scale used to describe crash severity is the CABCO injury scale, where K represents a fatal injury, and it goes through O, which represents property damage only. Another method of describing crash severity is by the terms fatal, injury, and property damage only, and with these symbols. A safety performance function, or an SPF for short, is a mathematical equation that predicts crash frequency per year for a type of roadway facility as a function of its traffic volume, segment length, and roadway characteristics. So for example, this SPF predicts for a road volume of 20,000 vehicles per day. In this sample road facility, we can expect a crash frequency of about 21 crashes per year. As for a safety countermeasure is a strategy intended to reduce crash frequency or severity on the road. For road safety engineers, a countermeasure is typically a physical change to the infrastructure of a road section or intersection, such as the addition of signs, signals, markings, or a change in the roadway's geometry. A crash modification factor is a multiplicative factor used to compute the expected number of crashes after implementing a given countermeasure. A CMF, which is a crash modification factor for short, reflects the safety effect of a countermeasure, whether it is a decrease in crashes, which is represented by a number lower than 1, an increase, which would be a greater than 1, or no change, which would be equal to 1. So for example, one of the newly added CMFs that were added to the CMF clearinghouse is for high tension cable median barrier. And the CMF reported is 0.76 for fatal and serious injury crashes. So in other words, there is a 24% reduction in these type of crashes. So this is the AASHTO Highway Safety Manual, first edition. It is made up of volume 1 through 3 from 2010, and there's a supplement that came out in 2014. The next Highway Safety Manual is anticipated to arrive in 2019. And this is a resource for methodologies on how to evaluate, measure, and estimate the frequency and severity of crashes on our roadways. So to understand the Roadway Safety Data Program's Toolbox, I want to go over the importance of the Roadway Safety Data Program. The Roadway Safety Data Program was created to improve safety data through improved data analysis and collection that will therefore help all transportation professionals make more informed decision-making and better targeted investments with limited resources. This will get us closer to our ultimate goal of Vision Zero, and to get there, we need to reduce fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. Excuse me. The Roadway Safety Data Program mission is exercising leadership throughout the highway community to make the nation's roadways safer by developing, evaluating, and deploying life-saving countermeasures, advancing the use of scientific methods and data-driven decisions, fostering a culture of safety, and promoting an integrated, multidisciplinary 4Es approach to safety. Now, if you would like to learn more about the Roadway Safety Data Program, you're welcome to visit the webpage, and it's located on the link provided. And then it will bring you to the page. Click on About RSDP below the title, and there you will find more information about the program. So for many, this transition to data-driven decision-making represents a change in the way how we do business. While the new safety data and analysis tools support data-driven safety analysis, identifying and selecting the appropriate tool can be very challenging, especially to smaller, local, or rural agencies, with limited personnel or resources. So in response, Federal Highway created the RSDP Toolbox, which is an online resource to obtain tools related to the management, collection, analysis, and research of safety data. And there are many ways that you can obtain the Toolbox. You can click on the link, which is provided there, or you can simply Google RSDP Toolbox, and it will be one of the first items that appear on the Google search. And that'll bring us to the Toolbox, and that's located in the middle of the Roadway Safety Data Program webpage, and it's circled there. Now, there are three primary searching methods that you can use when using the Toolbox. You have the primer, which is located on the right-hand side, and it has a link and a video provided. And that is the best method for first-time users or people who are beginning in the safety analysis or data collection. Then you have the second searching method, which is by task responsibility. And those task responsibilities are the four squares, our icons, and are entitled Manage, Analyze, Collect, and Research. And then the third searching method would be the advanced search method, which is located on the left-hand side of the Toolbox. And that is for those who are more familiar with tools that are out there or the terminology, and you can simply go there and enter a topic or a title of something that you're particularly looking for. So those are the things I described. So that concludes my portion. if anyone has any questions.
So at this point in time, we'll take questions if anyone would like to put those into the chat pod, again on the left-hand side. And while we are waiting to see if any come in, we are going to move you over to our first poll question break. The first question for you is true or false. A crash modification factor is a factor by which the expected number of crashes is expected to change following a modification to an intersection, segment, or system. And the second question we have for you is, which of the following is not a part of the FHWA Roadway Safety Data Program mission? Developing, evaluating, and deploying life-saving countermeasures, advancing the use of scientific methods and data-driven decisions, fostering a safety culture, providing a comparison of safety data across the nation, promoting an integrated multidisciplinary 4Es approach to safety, and I don't know, I don't remember. So we'll give you a few minutes to fill those out. Okay, and it does look like most people are done with the first one, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the first one if you'd like to discuss the results to that one while we wait on people to finish the second one. Yanira, would you like to go ahead and address question 1, please?
Sure. Let me scroll down. Oh, so the crash modification factor, yes, the majority got this correct. It's true. Crash modification factor is a factor by which the expected number of crashes is expected to change following a modification to an intersection, segment, or system. Now, as far as the second question, which of the following is not a part of the Federal Highway Roadway Safety Data Program? Yes, the majority of you also got this correct. Providing a comparison of safety data across the nation is not part of our mission. And were there any questions in the chat pod?
It does not look like we have any questions at this time. If you want to take a brief second and talk about the 3 flyers that you provided, just so people know what those are, they are available in the handout pod in the bottom left-hand corner.
Sure, no problem. Thank you for the reminder. We have 3 flyers located, and the first one is for the Roadway Safety Data Program. It gives an overall description of all the different projects in the program. And one very important part of this flyer I would like to highlight is the technical assistance. So, you know, sometimes we have so many, you know, guides and information, but we just need a little bit more help. So this technical assistance is available to state and local agencies, and you contact the person on the that's identified on the technical assistance section, and we can help you. And we have different types of technical assistance. So when you contact, it should say Robert Pollack, he can help identify which technical assistance would be most beneficial to your needs. And we actually have a separate technical assistance flyer that details this better and just gives a better description of the different types of technical assistance. Now, as far as the second flyer, it's about the toolbox in general, and it provides information that is given in this webinar. But that's available. Please feel free to forward those along to your colleagues. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I am going to put, someone had asked about the Toolbox website. I am putting that right into the chat pod right now for you guys.
Okay,
I'll
great.
move us over to the presentation. And I am now going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Frank. So Frank?
All right, thank you very much. All right, thanks, Yanira. And as Jamie introduced earlier, I'll be going through the last 3 learning objectives here, basically how to use the toolbox to search for available safety data and analysis tools, how to apply the advanced search options to narrow the list of tools, and really how to identify an appropriate tool based on your needs and your data and analysis capabilities. Oh, sorry, we won't go through the screen sharing just quite yet. I'll go through a little bit more of the presentation first. Thank you. So as Yanira said, I'll provide a demonstration of the toolbox, but I'll start with a demonstration of the search functions, followed by detailed examples of how to search for tools for a specific task. And one of the 3 search methods is a canned search. So this, that works, comes up. All right, so from the Toolbox homepage, you'll see 4 primary topic areas, and those are Manage, Analyze, Collect, and Research. And by clicking on one of those 4 topic areas, you will see a list of related tools. So that's really the canned search method. And for example, if we clicked on Analyze, that would bring us to a list of 129 tools. And from the web page, those are all listed if you scroll down the web page, and one of those is shown at the bottom of my screen here. You can also see that there's a number of filters, and one of those is the primary topic area. So this is already selected as Analyze, and I'll show how you would use this in a live demonstration later. There's a number of other filters as well. You can filter by tool type, and here the safety management process filter is expanded. So if you were interested in a specific component of the safety management process, you could click off that area or multiple areas to filter down the tools to a list that was most relevant. So perhaps you were only interested in tools related to economic appraisal. You could check the box here, and that would narrow the list to tools that focused specifically or contained information on economic appraisal. All right, so let's go back to the Toolbox homepage. And the next search option that I'd like to highlight is the advanced search function. So that's shown here in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And if you were to click on that link, that takes you to a page where you have the option to enter a keyword. In this case, I've entered the word rural and clicked search. And that identified a list of 28 tools. And again, 3 of those are shown here, but if you were on the web page, you could continue scrolling down to see all 28 tools. And what you're looking at on this page are the tool titles, and you can click on any one of those titles to link to additional details on the tool. This page also provides you with a quick summary of what the tool type is, and I'll describe that a little bit later, as well as who is the owner or sponsor of the tool. Now, if I was to leave the keyword search blank and click search, that would return all of the tools in the toolbox. So going back once more to the Toolbox homepage, the last thing I want to highlight is the primer. And Yanira pointed this out already, but in the lower right-hand corner of the toolbox, you can access the primer. And the primer explains everything that I just covered and more. It also includes a video, which is really a how-to that walks you through the toolbox. So from the primer, the primer is really a support document for Toolbox users, as Yanira said, particularly for the novice user or those who are trying to figure out how their role fits in with the greater safety management scheme. So the first thing it does is it really explains the features and functionality of the toolbox. And second, it's a guide really to help navigate the world of safety management. And what I mean by that is it will help you identify your role and responsibility in relation to the broader context of safety management. So if you're trying to figure out how your role and responsibility kind of maps to the overall picture, the bigger picture, this will help you to do that. It describes various tasks under each role and responsibility. And finally, it identifies tools that can support each task. And I'll go through that a little bit in detail during the demonstration. So the primer is organized into 4 general sections: roles and responsibilities, tasks, tools, and the tutorial. And I'll provide a brief overview of each before we go too much further. So for the roles and responsibilities, this section is organized by the 4 primary topic areas. Again, manage, analyze, collect, and research. And those are consistent with those primary topic areas on the home page of the toolbox. And for example, if we wanted to look at the roles and responsibilities under collect, I have a little bit of a zoom in here. There are 4 roles and responsibilities listed under the topic area of collect. And those are understand the needs of safety analysts. The second is collecting data through existing programs. The third is identifying opportunities to collect additional data, maybe through new programs. And the fourth is to employ techniques to collect data. So if I was to click on one of those, for example, let's take number 20, employ state-of-the-art techniques to collect high-quality data. If we were to click on that, that's going to take us to a list of specific tasks that are supported by tools in the toolbox. So the specific tasks align with the roles and responsibilities, and they're listed in the form of a question, really to help you figure out what you're trying to accomplish. So here, for this example, we clicked on number 20, and this leads us to a list of tasks that correspond to collecting data. And those are: how can we improve the quality of our data? What is the most cost-effective method for collecting data? And does the effectiveness of our data collection method change based on capabilities? So we could click on one of those. And let's click on B to demonstrate. So what is the most cost-effective method for collecting additional data elements? Now if we click on a task, this takes us to a list of specific tools that align with that task. And here you see a list of specific tools related to collecting data. And I just want to mention that the primer itself is a static document. So this was created toward the beginning when the toolbox was released, and the toolbox is updated continuously. So there's many more tools in the toolbox, and maybe even more relevant tools in the toolbox than are listed in the primer. So I would encourage you to maybe start with the primer. This will give you an idea of the types of tools that are available and help you to search for other similar tools in the toolbox. All right, so the tutorial component of the primer really provides an overview of how to use the functions that are found in the toolbox. And it also explains how to effectively search the toolbox to identify an appropriate tool based on your needs. So this is generally explained through the 3-step process listed here and what I just covered on the previous slides. So basically, you need to identify your role and responsibility. You can then select the task to be accomplished, which is associated with that role and responsibility. And finally, you can review the list of relevant tools that are listed in the primer or on the toolbox. All right, so what I'm going to do next is go through a live demonstration, but real quick, I'll just go through a couple of questions that we could potentially answer. And I have a couple of questions related to, let's see if I can get to this. All right, and Jamie, does this look okay?
It looks good to me, and again, just for everyone's reminder, up on the top right-hand corner of your screen, there should be the 4 arrows pointing outward in case it does look too small to you. And also, as we mentioned earlier in the handout pod, is the PDF version of the screen captures in case you need those at a later date. Go ahead, Frank.
All right, thank you. All right, so there's a couple of questions that I've set up that we could walk through with this live demonstration. 2 of those are related to data collection, and the other 2 are related to data analysis. So one of the biggest questions I get related to data collection is how much will it cost? And even if you had the money, and once you secure the funding for collecting data, the next question may be, how can I collect and integrate that data? Switching over to the data analysis side, one of the questions I'm often asked is, what is really the value of more reliable methods, such as those in the Highway Safety Manual? So what's wrong with what I'm doing now? Is there any value in enhancing the current methods that I'm using? And then finally, what can I do with the data I have? So I'm going to walk through those 4 questions and show you how you can identify appropriate tools in the toolbox to help you answer those questions and support those types of decisions. So for these, I'm going to kind of use a mix of the canned search and the advanced search methods just to refresh how to use those. So let's start with the advanced search method. So I'll click on the advanced search icon. That takes me to the advanced search page. I can leave this keyword search blank and click search, and that's going to return the list of all of the tools in the toolbox. So when that completes its search, it's going to return a list of nearly 200 tools. And again, our first question relates to the cost of collecting data. So the first thing I'm going to do is show the filters from the advanced search page. And with the primary topic area, if I'm really only interested in tools that are related to collecting data, I can select the collect topic area from that list of filters. And that's going to narrow the list down to 88 potential tools. And now I'll walk through the filters one by one and just explain how you can use each of those. So the first one is tool type. So if you were searching for a software specifically, or a database, or a specific guide, you could click one of these filters to narrow down your list. And otherwise, you'll just get all of the types of tools, which you may be interested in just browsing to see what's available. The first 2 here are pretty self-explanatory, software and database. The application guide and information guide, there's a distinct difference between those 2 types of guides. And really, the application guide is a how-to. So it's going to be more of a how-to guide, providing step-by-step instructions on how to conduct or perform some type of process. The information guide is more of a high-level discussion on a specific topic. So maybe it's a high-level discussion on the cost of data collection. So I'm actually going to select that one. And while that's searching, the information source is more of a clearinghouse of information. So it could be something like this toolbox. If you're familiar with the CMF clearinghouse, that would be an information source. Maybe a noteworthy practices database, but a place you can go and just find a variety of information, maybe even in a variety of formats. So I selected Information Guide as the filter here. That brought us down to 44 tools. I showed the safety management process earlier. Again, if you were interested in only one of those components, you could select that as a filter. The project development process, something similar. If you were focused more on the design aspect of the project development process, maybe you could select that to identify more relevant tools. The program area has 4 different filters here. There's tools that relate to the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. the Highway Safety Improvement Program, and so on. So you could select any one of those. In this case, the focus areas kind of align with FHWA's focus areas in roadway departure, intersection, ped bike, local rural safety, and speed-related issues and efforts. So in this case, I am interested in data collection on local and rural roads, so I'll see if that does anything. And that did narrow down the list. The agency level, again, I want tools that would apply to a local agency, and there are certain tools that are tailored to local agencies, so that can be a useful filter. The program or project level filter, if you're focused at the project level, maybe you're into a detailed design of your project, you're not really interested in programmatic tools, but tools that can support a given project, you could choose those filters there, but I'm going to leave those blank for now. For the data type, for this example, let's assume that we are interested in roadway data as opposed to crash or injury data, so I'll select that filter. Data coverage, this is more applicable to databases. So if you were looking for a database that covers national data, that would be the first filter here. If you were looking for state or local databases, and I'm not sure we have too many of those available at the moment, but that would help you to narrow down the list of databases. And then the last two are really about the accessibility. So whether or not there's online access to the tool, and I'll click yes because I want to have access to this tool immediately. I don't want to have to order it or somehow obtain a hard copy. And then lastly, the charge. Is it free or fee-based? So I'm only looking or interested now in tools that are publicly available, so I'll select that one. But again, you could leave any or all of these filters blank, and that would return all of the tools, and you could simply browse through the list to see what may be most interesting or relevant to you. But by selecting those filters, I've narrowed the list down to 13 tools. So really, it's not a huge list at this point. It's much more manageable. I can browse down through, and again, the question at hand was, how much does it cost to collect the data? And the third one on the list here is a decision-making guidebook related to a benefit cost analysis of investing in data systems. So if I click on that title, that's going to take me to the tool detail page. And there's a good bit of information in here, and that's summarized under various categories. We know the tool name already. We identified the applicability, but it repeats that again here. That applies to kind of managing and collecting data. The overview is what I'd like to turn your attention toward, because the overview really provides a specific bulleted list of what the tool can help you to do. So in this case, this guidebook can help you to estimate the benefits and costs associated with safety data and management improvements. So it seems like this tool is very applicable to that question of how much does it cost to collect data. The other thing this tool can help you do is understand the value of investments in data collection and really justify the decisions of investing in additional data. And if I scroll down the page, many tools have requirements associated with them, or at least it lets you know if there's any software or system requirements for using the tool. These are more of the data inputs that the tool would require. Toward the bottom, there's a summary, just a real brief summary of what the tool provides. Again, the entity who created the tool or who's maintaining the tool. And the last thing on here is the availability. So you can see here that this guide is available free of charge at the following link. So if I click on this hyperlink, that would take me to the guide itself. Now I won't do that now just because it will take a moment to download, but that is how you would access the actual tool. So at this point, I'll go back to the home page, and I can do that from this link here, or I can go back to the top of the screen and click on RSDP Home. And what that's doing is bringing me back to the Roadway Safety Data Program page and the toolbox itself. So the next question I had was more related to data collection methods. So it's still in the collection area, so I'm going to collect on the canned search of collect this time and bypass the advanced search function. So again, this takes me to the list of 88 potential tools. And I'll walk down through the filters again and just select those that I had last time. I'm really interested in an information guide about methods to collect data. I would like to focus more on local and rural tools if they are available. The data type, again, let's, for the example, say we are interested in roadway data. I want tools that are available online and free of charge. So this gets us back to our list of 13 potential tools. Scrolling down the list again, if you're not familiar with the potential tools, it may take you a moment to read through these, but some of those you may find that are not very relevant if you might be able to rule them out right away. But others, about 3/4 of the way down the list, I see something here on a data collection guidebook. So that looks like it could be relevant. And you may or may not be familiar with Meyer, but it says roadway elements and data collection. So I'm going to click on that. And before I do that, one thing, if you're going to compare multiple tools, you may want to right-click and open these summaries in a new window or a new tab. And that way you can come back to the search page and click on others and open those in new tabs and keep comparing them side by side almost. But if you click on this title here, and I'll illustrate this at the end after I go through the summary, if you were simply to click the back button, that's going to take you back to the list of 88 tools, and you'd have to apply the filters again. So I would advise not to hit the back button if you're interested in comparing more than one tool. But for those of you who are not familiar with Meyer, it's the model inventory of roadway elements. And really what this is it's a list of roadway features and traffic volume elements that are going to help you use the more advanced data analysis methods. It's going to move you toward a more data-driven approach to safety management. And again, focusing on the overview, this guidebook can really help you to identify methods for collecting the Meyer data elements and also to understand the potential limitations of data collection methods. So again, this seems very relevant and sounds like a winner to me if we're trying to figure out what are the methods available and maybe the strengths and limitations to collecting roadway data. So requirements, you can see here, there are no data requirements for this guidebook. And in terms of the availability, it's available free of charge at the following link. And it looks like there's also a supplemental resource here as well. So in some cases, we have tools that are related to each other, and we try to list those on the respective pages so that you can see where there may be additional information that might be of interest. So, if you like the Meyer Data Collection Guidebook, check out the Meyer Feasibility Report. So let's demonstrate clicking the back button. Again, I mentioned that if I did that, it takes me back to the list of 88 tools, and the filters that I had selected have been wiped out. So if you are selecting multiple tools for comparison, again, I would recommend right-clicking and opening those in a new tab. All right, so at this point, I'll go back to the home page real quick. And that took us through 2 questions related to data collection. So now I'm going to shift gears and go to a couple of questions related to data analysis. So I'm going to click on Analyze as our canned search. And the question at hand was, what's the value of using more reliable data analysis methods? So if we want to use more reliable analytical methods, we may need to collect additional data, integrate that data, learn how to use the new techniques. So if we're going to go through all of that effort, there better be value in doing so. So I want to know what is the value of using these more reliable methods before I go through all of that effort. So in this case, I'm going to select an information guide again. I would like kind of high-level information on this. And in doing so, that takes me down to a list of 27 tools, which is fairly manageable. So I'm not going to select any other filters at this point, but I could scroll down through and see if there's anything that catches my eye on reliability. And once we get about 3/4 of the way down the page, there's a series of guides here on the reliability of safety management methods. And each of these guides covers a different component of the safety management process. So there's network screening, diagnosis, countermeasure selection, and safety effectiveness evaluation. There's a separate reliability guide on the systemic safety approach. So let's just click on one as an example. I'll take countermeasure selection. And I won't read through all of the bullets in the overview, but I would draw your attention to a couple of these. So let's take a look at the second, third, and fourth bullet. So this information guide can help you to understand the strengths and limitations of various methods, understand the value of more reliable methods in countermeasure selection, and select more reliable methods for countermeasure selection. So that really seems to fit the bill. And again, this series of reliability guides goes through different steps of the safety management process and can help you identify the different methods that could be used for each step, the strengths and limitations of those methods, and really demonstrates the value in using more reliable methods. All right, have you had enough? I'll take the silence as a no and pretend that you're not on mute. So we'll go through one more. We have one more question related to data analysis. So clicking on the can search for analyze, the last question I had was really related to what can I do with the data I have? So we're starting with the 129 tools available for data analysis. From here, I'm going to select, I'm interested only in information guides. And again, we're narrowed down to 27 tools pretty quickly, so I'll scroll down through the list. And one of those on here is the Highway Safety Manual Data Needs Guide. So I'm going to right-click on that one so that I can compare multiple tools. I'll open this in a new tab and zoom in just a little bit. So for this one, it looks promising. It's a data needs guide. So what can I do with the data I have? And this guide can help you to identify the data needed to apply the HSM Part C predictive methods. All right, so that may not be completely applicable if you didn't have all of the data to apply those predictive methods. That might inform you that you can use other methods, but you would need additional data perhaps to use these Part C predictive methods. But what if you were really interested in what can I do with a more limited amount of data? So I'll go back to the list of tools and keep scrolling through. There's some stuff on here on pedestrians, probably not applicable. The reliability series, I will say, those do contain sections on data requirements for applying those different methods. So those are very applicable, but I've gone through those already. But the one I'd like to draw your attention to is this tool on the scale and scope of safety assessment methods. And it focuses on the project development process. So as you're going through planning, design, or operational decisions, there's different methods that you could apply to really understand the safety impacts of your decisions. And the methods can vary widely. There's very simple methods for estimating the safety effects of your decisions. There's very rigorous and complex methods for estimating the safety performance. And those vary in terms of the data requirements. the reliability, the types of results that you're going to get. So this talks about the scale and the scope of analysis and really what would be appropriate to answer different questions. It may not be worth going through the full predictive method in the Highway Safety Manual to answer a very simple question on a very low-cost project. On the other hand, if you're going through the process of looking at a multi-million-dollar interchange project and there's various design alternatives that you're considering, you may very well want to spend some extra time and resources going through a full predictive method and seeing how the safety performance changes as your design changes. So this scale and scope guide can help you to, one, learn about the objective of safety analysis within each phase of project development, identify applications of various quantitative safety analysis methods and the basic data needs. So there's one again that gets you to the data needs. And then the fourth one here I'll draw your attention to is really, again, balancing the level of requirements and predictive reliability for various methods. So there's a number of methods described in here. They have different data requirements and different levels of reliability. So again, if you're looking at a very simple question, you may be able to get away with a relatively simple analysis. All right, so before I wrap up the demo, I'd like to go back to the RSDP homepage and point out a couple of additional features related to the toolbox. One, I was only able to demonstrate 4 tools today of the nearly 200 tools that are available. So there's many more tools on the toolbox to explore. You saw on the summary pages that we have the tool name, the overview, the data requirements. In the near future, we're going to link to video tutorials to several of those tools. So if you are interested in a specific guide or tool, there may be a video available for that tool to walk you through what it can do and how to use it. There's also plenty of opportunities for technical assistance. As Yanira mentioned, Bob Pollack, Stuart Thompson, and Jerry Roche at Federal Highway all have great technical assistance programs available, and I'm sure there's others. So please just click on or download the flyer that Yanira pointed out and contact Federal Highway, and they will put you in touch with the right person that can provide you with some technical assistance. If you're looking for assistance in collecting data, managing data, working between state and local agencies, integrating data, maybe it's data analysis and you have various levels of analysis questions. If you just need help finding the right tool, they'll be available to help. So there's plenty of opportunities for technical assistance. And also, if you have tools to share, we would be very interested in hearing about those. I can't guarantee that every one of them will make its way onto the toolbox. We're trying to provide select tools and not necessarily provide the entire world of safety analysis tools, but we're trying to provide the most reliable and up-to-date tools available. So if you have something to share, you could click on this link to share tools. It's a very simple form. There's a good bit of information here, but not all of it is required. You can see the asterisks indicating required information. So basically, we just want a title, a brief description. If you would like, you could fill out the data requirements, capabilities, availability, but really we just want the title, the capabilities, or the description, and your contact information. And then you would hit submit, and that would enter the queue for our process when we're searching for new tools to add to the toolbox. 2 other things to point out. If you cannot find a tool that's to answer maybe a question that you have, you can identify this as a gap. So there's all kinds of agencies looking to sponsor research, to fill gaps. So if you're looking for a tool and cannot find something that's relevant, click on that link and identify the gap that you would like to fill. And then finally, if you have feedback for the toolbox, if there's any type of functionality issues that you're coming across, maybe there's a broken link to the tool and you're not getting to the right page, you can click on this Provide Feedback link and leave a note, and that will get entered in a queue to be addressed very quickly. So thanks for following along with the live demonstration. And before I wrap up, I'd like to switch back to the main presentation if we could. So I will stop sharing that. Perfect. And I want to leave you with a list of tools related specifically to local and rural roads. So what I'm going to do is scroll through and skip the backup slides that we had in case the live demo didn't work. So what I did is I was able to use the advanced search function and search for the word local, and then separately searched for the word rural, and compiled a list of tools that I thought were maybe most relevant. So there's half of the tools on this slide and half on the next slide, and I won't read through all of those, but for example, there's assistance in developing safety plans. There's also assistance in integrating safety in the rural transportation planning process. If I go to the next slide, you can see tools related to non-motorized safety, speed management, and state practices for local road safety. These two tables provide the applicability, whether the tools apply to manage, analyze, or collect, as well as the hyperlink. So you can click on these hyperlinks. Again, the PDF of this presentation is available for download. So you could click on these hyperlinks to access the tools, or just search the tool name in the toolbox, and that should get you to where you need to go. So at this point, we'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much, Frank, and thank you for going through that live demo. We do appreciate it. Dana, at this point, would you mind moving us over to the next poll question and going ahead and reading that out loud for us? And then we'll take some questions out of the chat pod.
Sure. So our next question is, what is the purpose of the canned search function of the toolbox? Learn about roles and responsibilities supported by tools in the toolbox through a tutorial. Learn about tasks supported by tools in the toolbox. Learn about tasks supported by tools in the toolbox through a tutorial. Identify a list of all relevant tools by primary topic area, i.e. manage, analyze, collect, research. Identify a list of all relevant tools by tool type, i.e. information guide, application guide, database, software, information source. And the last one, I don't know or I don't remember.
Thank you, Dana. And while you guys are taking the time to go ahead and fill out that poll, if we do have any questions for Frank, please put those in the chat pod. This will be your last opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. Okay, Frank, at this point it does look like everyone has taken the poll, so I've gone ahead and closed those results. If you'd like to address them, please.
All right, sure. All right, it looks like the majority of folks have responded correctly. The canned search function, again in the toolbox, is for identifying all relevant tools by primary topic area. There are other options for searching the toolbox. If you want to search by tool type, you would need to go into the advanced search option and maybe leave the keyword search blank and search for all tools, and then use the tool type filter to search by specific tool types. And regarding the first two answers, the tutorial, for a tutorial of the toolbox or a tutorial of how to identify an appropriate tool for a given task, that's all through the primer. So the primary purpose of the canned search function, again, is to identify tools by primary topic area.
Perfect, thank you. And it does look like we may have one more question coming in for you as well.
Great.
So while we're waiting on that question to come in, I am going to move us over to one last poll question that we have that's not testing your knowledge on today's, but is more trying to figure out what you would like to learn more about. So the FHWA is interested in knowing, would you like to learn more about data collection, data management and integration, data analysis, or specific tools such as software and guides? And if you have any detailed topics within those categories, we have a second poll box that's open-ended for you to go ahead and type those in. But if you could let us know which number they are associated with. For instance, if you'd like to know more about data collection in a specific topic, if you could write number 1 and then write what that might be, just so we know which those go with. And so Frank, the question that did come in is, how did you know the specific amount of tools, for example, 88 or 13?
All right, good question. So when we're on the search results page, once we have a list of tools that have been returned to us, I think it's right below the filters and just above the list of tools. It indicates how many tools are in that list. So if you want to play around with the toolbox and either click on one of the canned search functions, manage, analyze, collect, or research, or click on the advanced search function, search for a list of tools. Right above that list, it should indicate the number of tools available.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And it does look like most people have finished with this other poll question as well. We will be providing this information, including the answers that you typed into FHWA, so they have that. But just so that everyone else is aware, it looked like about 66% of people were interested in additional information on data analysis, about 55% for specific tools, and then a smaller amount, about 36 and 30% on data collection and data management. And we have about 7 specific answers put into the box. So we will, as I mentioned, provide that to FHWA for their future reference. We're going to go ahead and finish up the webinar today. And so in today's webinar, we hope that you have learned how to define the basic safety terminology, the Roadway Safety Data Program, and the RSDP Toolbox, how to use the toolbox to search for available safety data and analysis tools, how to apply the advanced search options to narrow the list of tools to support a specific need, and how to identify appropriate tools based on current safety data and analysis needs and capabilities. So a few reminders for things that both of our speakers have mentioned today. Technical assistance is available. The FHWA Roadway Safety Data Program has it available, and here's a link to that, as well as the 2 flyers that are in the handout pod about the technical assistance. You may also call the Rural Road Safety Center if you are in need of anything as well. And resources that are available, here are the links to both the Roadway Safety Data Program and the Roadway Safety Data Analysis Toolbox. And again, I'll remind you that the PDF version of today's presentation is in the handout so that you have access to all of these links. And today's webinar is being recorded. So the recording of the webinar and all of the handouts will be available on our website within a week, and it's on our archive trainings page. Some upcoming webinar announcements from the Safety Center. Our October webinar is scheduled to be about the Rural ITS Toolkit. The date itself is still to be announced, so watch your email that comes through our distribution list for that. Our November webinar will be held November 15th. It is Achieving Safety Results by Addressing Behavioral Issues. And the December webinar will have a guest speaker from Sweden coming to talk to us about the culture of Swedish Vision Zero. As always, as I mentioned, the archived webinars, all of our past webinars are available on our website. We also have a few training videos. We have an introduction to road safety audits on tribal lands and an introduction to road safety culture video on our YouTube channel. We also will be releasing within the next few weeks an additional video on road safety audits on tribal lands. And lastly, I do want to thank both of our speakers. We appreciate them taking the time today to come and explain about the toolbox and especially the live demonstration. Their contact information is here on this page in case you do have any additional questions that you'd like to follow up with afterwards. So thank you very much, Frank and Yanira.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, too. Bye.